Alright, yeah.
Up for sale is a 150 gallon saltwater aquarium. It comes with everything. The filter system is a sump system. Let's see if we can move this light a little bit. And I'll show you how it kind of works by like gravity. You see right here where the water goes down, it's like I said, it works by gravity. And what's happened is you're getting 800 gallons out of a dual flow box that's going to go down there, and we'll head down there after we go through a couple other things. But like I said, this all works by gravity. It's a dual flow box made by ESOPs, and that's more or less how the water goes down to where it's going to be filtered. And if you see back here, when the water comes back up, it shoots back up here. There's a pump that's down underneath there. It shoots 800 gallons of water back into the aquarium. The light bar here is actually a 3-bulb light bar. It's probably going to freak out the camera, but there's different bulbs in there that do different things to help things grow. Right down here you have a flow pump. All this pump does is keep the water circulating. Actually, it only uses 5 watts and circulates 500 gallons of water an hour, so the water in the tank continually moves around, which actually is healthy for the fish and keeps the tank crystal clear. We head down here to the bottom. This is where the sump is. Now you could go out and buy a sump that's made out of acrylic and it probably cost you $600–700. And my past experience, I don't trust acrylic. I've had one that actually cracked on me. This is actually a 40-gallon breeder tank that's glass, and I actually built the sump. If you look down here, those two from the overflow box, you have 2 tubes that come down here where the water is going to go through this floss, and then it goes through these things that are called bio balls. And what's good about this is the bio balls actually grow bacteria, which is what keeps the water clean and eliminates ammonia and all kinds of fish waste and stuff like that, and it flows down into there. And it's really low maintenance. I mean, the only thing you'd have to do is every once in a while is I cut all this, put the PVC pipes and stuff in. The only thing you'd have to do is actually pull this up every once in a while and replace the floss that's in there. You don't touch the bio balls, but this is thick glass, so it's nice and sturdy. You have a ton of bio balls, which gives you a ton of space for the bacteria to grow. And the water goes down there. I don't know if you can see, the tank also comes with, there's a 300-watt titanium heater down in the sump, which is, I like the whole sump idea because you don't have to have the heater in the tank. And if you go up there, you can see there's the thermostat for the heater, so I have it set at 75 right now, and that'll automatically click off and on. Also in the tank I have a UV sterilizer, which is a really good idea if you're going to have salt water. There's a little pump there that's down there, and it pumps 200 gallons of water up into this sterilizer, which is up there. And what that does is it kills stuff like ick. It also kills a ton of algae. So if you notice in the bottom tank, there's hardly any algae or algae in the top tank. So that just flows up there and then flows back after it goes through this sterilizer into the tank. In the bank is a MAG 9.5 pump. It actually pumps 850 gallons of water back into the tank, which is that thing that I showed you up to the top. It's the big black tube that goes back up there. Next on line we have a skimmer, and this really helps a lot to keep the water clean. What it does is, you can see it looks kind of like a tornado. It churns up all the water, and then the fine particles that the floss missed end up in this cup up here. And what you do is when that fills up is you just unscrew this and come off and you just dump it in your sink, rinse it out and screw it back on. And really simple, but it keeps the water really clean. I just have this the way I have it set up, so it goes through trays here. There's some floss there, and there's some charcoal, and I don't know if you can see in the back there's some live rock that just keeps the bacteria growing. But once you set this tank up, it's really low maintenance. You really don't have to do anything to it. I mean, it's going to stay crystal clean. The only thing you're probably going to do is, like on the main pump there that pumps the water back out, is pull off that black foam thing and put it in the sink and just rinse it out with just warm water. The same with the overflow box back there. Now, some people might have a question to what happens if, since this is the working by gravity back here in the overflow box, what would happen if the power went off? Would the flow, would the water keep going? Well, what would happen is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what would happen if, say, if your power went out. What will happen is, once the water gets down below this line, the siphon will stop. And what I'll do is I'll just give you a demonstration. I'm going to shut the power off, and you'll see what will happen. The excess water, until it gets down to the line here, will end up in the tank down there. So we're going to shut the power off, and if you want to come over here, and you'll see the water, what happens when it comes down to there. Just grab the line for the pump. This one. Okay. Skimmer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. One for the pump. This is your main pump right here. Of course, it's probably plugged in. Let's just make this easy. I'm just going to turn the power strip off. And you'll see what will happen. So you don't have to worry about your house flooding if the power goes off. You can hear the water sucking down because the pump's off. And so if your power went up in your house, you wouldn't have to worry about. All that's going to happen is the water level is going to rise in the sump, and as soon as the power comes back on, the siphon is going to automatically start again, and it'll take that extra water back here and go back there. So I'm going to turn the power strip back on again, and it'll automatically start again. Once the water starts to get the level up there again, it'll start flowing back down. So you don't have any worries about your house flooding. The water level in your sump is pretty much going to stay at this line right here, right where the bio wall is at all times. If the only thing, water will evaporate, but the salt will stay in the tank. So what I do is, when the water level gets a little bit lower, I just dump some fresh water back in there. Use, spring water. You don't really have to use salt because, like I said, the salt's going to stay in the tank. But it's a really efficient system. Like I said, you have a 300 watt titanium heater, and I've had many fish tanks. This is the best filtering system you could have. And for, like I said, you could buy under a sump for underneath the tank, but for what they're going to charge you, $600–700 with the skimmer and everything, I probably built